North Carolina is a great place to move to for a whole lot of reasons, right? I mean, you've got a mild climate, beautiful beaches, and a great job market. But many people will move to North Carolina, and soon after they move here, they'll move right back out. This video is about the top 10 reasons why people actually leave North Carolina. And this video is not meant to deter you from moving to North Carolina. Rather, I want to give you some food for thought. So when you do make the decision to move to North Carolina, it's more likely that you won't leave. Because at the end of the day, I want to make sure you make the right decision for yourself. Hey, I'm Will Wofford, real estate broker with Berkshire Hathaway here in Raleigh, North Carolina. If you have any real estate needs in Raleigh, or if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me and I would be glad to help you. Also, if you like the video, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and you want to learn more about the Raleigh area. And with that being said, let's jump right into the video. All right, first up is bugs and critters. And there are lots of bugs and critters in North Carolina. And I honestly don't think many people actually realize just how much wildlife is really here. Now in the spring and summer, there are lots of mosquitoes that come out because we get lots of rain and they breed in the standing water. So you're gonna be experiencing mosquitoes in North Carolina. If you live in the eastern part of the state, along the Pamlico Sound, Bay River, or Neuse River, all the way down to South Carolina border, you'll probably encounter a few alligators near the water. But if you don't live near the water, the odds of seeing an alligator, well, they're pretty slim. But we do have a large variety of snakes. We'll tell you there are about 4 to 5 poisonous varieties. The most common snake bite comes from the copperhead, and they can be found anywhere. Seriously. I just found one in my garden the other day. Now for the hardest to see of critters, North Carolina provides the ideal climate for subterranean termites, which by the way are the worst kind of termites that you can get. And whenever you buy a house in North Carolina, I can almost guarantee your realtor is going to recommend you spend $100 and get the termite inspection and make sure that you don't have them. Afterwards, I'd recommend that you periodically check for termites based on the location of your home. Now in the summertime, you're going to be seeing a lot of palmetto roaches, which are those really big roaches that can fly across your house. Seriously, I've had one fly across the room and hit me right in the face when I was watching TV. And yes, I do have a professional exterminator that comes out quarterly and sprays, which is something you'll want to do as well, so you can reduce the odds of having them breed in your home. All right, so number 2 on the list of the reason people are moving away from North Carolina is because life here moves at a slower pace. So if you're coming from a big city like New York or Los Angeles and you move down to North Carolina, even if you're in the larger metro areas like Raleigh or Charlotte, you're going to see that life moves at a slower pace. And for some of you, that might actually be welcoming, right? Because that's probably one of the reasons you're moving down here, is to kind of get away from that rat race. But if you're not the kind of person that's looking for that slower pace of life, maybe you're looking for a milder climate and a more affordable living situation, but you still like that fast moving pace lifestyle that you're used to and accustomed to being surrounded by people that also enjoy that fast paced lifestyle. I think in general, you're going to find people here tend to move a lot slower. And maybe it's just something about that southern culture where your neighbors stop by and talk to you and people you've never met wave to you as you drive down the street. I don't know. All right, the third reason people are leaving North Carolina is because our summers are so brutally hot from the Piedmont area all the way to the coast. So one of the main reasons people will move to North Carolina is because they like the mild climate. Here's the thing. When people come to visit the larger metro areas of the state like Raleigh or Charlotte, they typically come in the spring or fall when the weather is ideal and visit our mountains or coast in the summer. So most of these people don't realize just how hot the majority of the state gets, and the temperature can easily exceed 100 degrees and stay that way for days. In fact, we've just come off several days of 100+ degree temperatures in Raleigh. And at night, I can almost guarantee you'll see cockroaches running around on the street near the manholes looking for water. So for some people, when you combine the hot summer temperatures with the high humidity that's prevalent in the summer, it's just going to be too hot for some people. So if you're someone that's heat sensitive, it can be excruciating. And you'll likely find yourself stuck inside the house, sitting in front of the AC for about 2 months out of the year. So my recommendation would be that you come during the summer months and visit to make sure that you're okay with the heat before you move here. All right, the number 4 reason people are leaving the state of North Carolina involves allergies. Now, as I've mentioned previously, North Carolina is a very lush and humid state, which means we have lots of vegetation and trees, which causes pollen. And I'll say this, pollen affects some people much more dramatically than it affects others. And allergies affect most people to a certain extent. But for the most part, young kids and adults seem to be affected the most. Now, maybe you grow out of allergies, because I used to get allergy shots when I was a kid, but thankfully, my allergy problems have pretty much gone away. But for the majority of people, I would say allergens typically only cause watery eyes and sneezing. And that typically lasts a couple weeks in the spring when the flowers bloom, and a couple weeks in the fall when the leaves fall off the trees. Now, for some people, allergies can and be a really big deal, and that becomes a year-round problem. And the severity of allergies here causes some people to consider if they need to move to a drier climate. And so that's what's happening for some people, and that's why some people are leaving. And the fifth reason people are leaving North Carolina is politics. Now, North Carolina has recently emerged as a swing state, and I would tell you party division in politics can really go either way, and to a certain extent, it really depends on who's in office. But I've talked to quite a few liberal people that have moved here from New York or California who've been here for a while, who realize they just can't handle a lot of the conservative thinking that you find in a population where there's kind of a even split along political lines. So I will tell you that the larger metro areas like Raleigh and Charlotte, they tend to tilt toward the more liberal side. But once you get out of these areas, North Carolina is generally a conservative state, especially in the more rural areas. So if you're planning on moving to the Raleigh or Charlotte area, odds of you befriending someone that's conservative versus liberal, I'd say is about 50-50. And the fact is, you'll much more frequently be meeting someone that's conservative here in North Carolina versus New York or say San Francisco, for example. But of course, there are many other states and areas where people tend to be a lot more liberal. But I just think these two examples help drive home the point. And people that are very liberal sometimes have a hard time adjusting to this line of thinking. And it's just too conservative for them, and they find that they aren't happy with it, and they leave North Carolina to go to another state that's much more in line with their political beliefs. All right, the sixth reason people are moving out of North Carolina is the changing culture that's really been emerging ever since North Carolina became one of the most popular states in the South to move to. And of course, when that happens and transplants move in, well, it's naturally going to dilute our Southern culture. Now, if you're from North Carolina or you're from the South, I bet you're probably noticing a change where our sense of Southern hospitality is slowly beginning to fade. And it's enough to make some locals think, hey, maybe we should just move somewhere else. And on top of that, a lot of people are moving to the bigger cities. So the bigger cities are getting more and more crowded and less affordable for some locals. But I can tell you, growing up in Raleigh, areas like Zebulon, Apex, Holly Springs, Morrisville, and Wake Forest that used to be all rural farmlands, well, those areas are now the most popular suburbs to live in. And the seventh reason people are leaving the state of North Carolina is the high cost of living. So I've talked about the high cost in a lot of my recent videos, but for those of you that are new to my channel, the housing costs in North Carolina are going up at a fairly quick pace. And that's especially true in the big cities such as Raleigh, Durham, and Charlotte. And the tourist areas on the coast or the mountains are also going up quickly because our cost of housing was until recently accelerating at a fairly rapid pace. But I'll tell you, things have really cooled off quickly in the last month or so. So if you're a cash buyer, this might actually be the perfect time to get the house you really want. But I will tell you, you can still get a relatively good deal in some of the rural, smaller towns. But even there, the cost of housing has gone up, especially compared to some of our neighboring states. Couple that with the fact that North Carolina has higher taxes than some of our neighboring states, and you'll quickly realize why people are leaving the state of North Carolina and going to cheaper states like Georgia, for example, which has the 5th lowest cost of living in the United States, and Tennessee, that has the 8th lowest cost of living. So while our taxes are increasing, other states are actually lowering their taxes, and it's not too much of a surprise that you'll lose some people for this reason. All right, the 8th reason people are moving out of North Carolina is for jobs. And yeah, I know, what you're thinking. North Carolina is supposed to have one of the best job markets in the United States. It's known for not only being a great place to find a job, but a great place to keep a job. But our economy, especially in the metro area, attracts lots of people. And it's one of the primary reasons a lot of people are moving to the state of North Carolina on a daily basis. But on the opposite side of the coin, it's the advancement opportunities mainly that ultimately moves a lot of these people out of the state. Not to mention, we have a tremendous array of top tier schools across the state. And as those students graduate, naturally a large percentage of them will move out of the state to start their careers. And if you want to learn more about our job market in the Raleigh-Durham area, check out this video I did on the RTP and the Triangle for a deeper understanding. All right, the 9th reason people are moving out of North Carolina is for retirement. And I know what you're thinking. You thought North Carolina was supposed to be one of the best states to retire to in the entire country, and it is. But it's not a good fit or place for everyone to retire to. And one of the big reasons that people are moving to other states is to escape the high cost of living that I mentioned earlier. So it makes sense that taxes are higher in North Carolina versus, say, South Carolina and Florida. Plus, the cost of housing can be more expensive. So naturally, if you're a retiree on a fixed budget that's downsizing and you can't afford the cost of a new house in, say, North Carolina, well, you're going to look at some of the other states that might be a better fit financially. Not to mention, some people are also looking for a change of lifestyle that comes with places like Florida or South Carolina. 10th reason people are moving away from North Carolina is the traffic. Now, the traffic has steadily gotten worse in the larger metro areas over the last 5 to 10 years, I'd say, as demand for the areas in the center of the state has really picked up. And if you live in the Raleigh area, for example, that has an exploding population, and you couple that with the fact that the real catalyst for jobs in the area is the RTP, and really the majority of these jobs are located between Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill, then you begin to realize that all the people coming from the surrounding suburbs on the eastern and northern side of Raleigh must access Raleigh's 440 inner belt line to get there. And at some point down the road, I'm sure the traffic problem will calm down. But for right now, our 440 belt line just can't handle the sheer volume of traffic going through it. And all of the on and off ramps on the western side are currently being rebuilt just to accommodate the traffic. Additionally, the 540 outer loop is being built in 4 or 5 phases. So the final leg of that expressway will ultimately be complete around 2030. So that's going to be quite a while. And I'm sure if you're someone that's coming from a larger city like New York or LA, the traffic you'll experience here is really not that big of a deal. But to the people that live in the rural areas that have to drive through our metro areas, I'm telling you, they don't know what to do. And I promise you, they try to avoid this whole area. And for a lot of people, given the opportunity to work remotely, it's likely enough to drive them to another state so they don't have to deal with this traffic problem anymore. So I'll say this, you really need to understand the traffic situation in whatever area you decide to move to before you actually get there. That way, you'll know in advance if the traffic's going to be a deal breaker. Now, at the end of the day, I just want you to be aware of why you might not like living here in North Carolina. Because if you make the decision to move here, hopefully it will be the one decision in life that turns out to be the best decision that you've ever made. And I absolutely love living here. And again, I'm a real estate agent in Raleigh, North Carolina. So if you have questions or you'd like some help finding the perfect home, feel free to give me a call or send me a message because I'd love to connect with you. And I appreciate your support on my YouTube channel, and I'll see you on the next one.